All right, I want to get Mike Benz in on here right now from the Foundation Freedom Online. Now, Benz, this crazy news over the weekend, NATO long-range missiles being approved by the Biden administration to fire into Russia, into the internationally recognized borders of Russia. What is going on with this, Benz? What can we expect? Is this a negotiating tactic? Is this a way to try to prevent Russia from taking more territory before Trump gets in? What is really going on, and why are they trying to make the Ukraine war expand?
Well, I have a bit of a strange take on this, and admittedly, it's entirely speculation. I have no clue what's really going on in terms of the back channel conversations between the Trump transition team and the semi-lame duck Biden administration. But we do know that Trump and Biden met personally, mano a mano, last week at the White House. There is the famous picture of them shaking hands, Trump with that mischievous grin that he gave to Mitt Romney 7 years ago. But I can't peer through the fog of war on this, but I have a strange, funny feeling that there's a non-zero chance that this may have been something that Trump and Biden discussed, particularly because we have not seen a public statement from Trump disavowing this or saying that it is going to be immediately rescinded on day one. There is actually a kind of funny utility in a Trumpian logic to having the outgoing Biden administration authorize something without it being the formal diplomacy channel or posture of the Trump White House, in the sense that Trump, I think, is a fan of this negotiating art of the deal strategy of escalate to de-escalate. That is, the issue right now, as I've been saying for many, many, many months now, is that Russia is winning. They're winning on the battlefield. They're winning internationally. They've reconnected. You know, the blown up Nord Stream is effectively being replaced by this Power of Siberia pipeline from Russia into China. They're also rerouting resources into India and then sort of laundering it into Europe. Russia actually overtook the U.S. in terms of gas exports into Europe, despite all the sanctions, just a few months ago. So militarily, economically, diplomatically, the U.S. is getting crushed. There's no reason currently for Russia to agree to a peace deal in which they need to step back territory in the Donbass or in Crimea to the world as it used to be before the 2014 coup. In order to achieve that diplomatic victory, there need to be credible threats to the Russian people. This is Blob's eye thinking, not my personal views, but as they see it, the whole play around long-range missile threats has not been, in my view, to literally cause World War III, but to threaten it and to have sort of Russian bodies coming home in body bags and to sort of create a Vietnam situation politically inside of Moscow. And so my hunch on this, it's knife's edge. Again, I have no clue. I have no insider information. But if this authorization takes place and what transpires in the next 2 months are limited long-range strikes to weapons depots, military facilities, without inflicting casualties or without inflicting civilian casualties, such that the threat is there that sort of cultivates an anti-war movement within Russia because people don't want their children getting harmed. It could actually help Trump at the negotiating table to have something to offer in exchange for favorable terms for a peace deal. What are your thoughts?
Well, I do know that I caught Mike Walls earlier, and that's all very interesting. I can certainly see that line of thinking, but I would put it, I think, more with the war hawk side than I would say Trump, because again, that's in line with this regime change type of thought that, because, all right, go back to it. The entire point of why the United States and NATO wanted to push for Ukraine into the country and Ukraine's entry into NATO was to hope for regime change within Russia. They wanted to get rid of Putin. They think they can get rid of his regime. They think they can inculcate all of the things that you were talking about. But the difference being, of course, that typically that there's wide support for the war against NATO, because all of Russia across the spectrum actually views this as a threat, except for like the young liberals in the country. The hardliners want Putin to go even further. They're saying, fine, if they want to attack inside Mother Russia, then you should go ahead and attack Kiev or attack some of those NATO capitals. Why not? They don't care one way or the other. The issue is, I think, as well, and I will also, by the way, I will say that publicly, we don't know whether or not this is part of what you're saying or not part of this potential dance, but we do know that Mike Waltz, current Congressman Mike Waltz, I don't think he's resigned, actually, the way Matt Gaetz did, but he's been appointed as Trump's selectee for national security advisor, that he went on Fox News this morning and said that they were not briefed by the Biden administration on this decision whatsoever. And what's really interesting, though, and this actually speaks to your theory that something might be going on, is that the Ukrainians have been asking for this all along. They've been asking for long-range ATACMS authorization and the equipment to do so from day one of the war effort. So the question is, why would it come only at the very end? There's clearly something going on here. People who are looking at this from a high-level perspective know that this isn't being done just without any reason whatsoever. It's clearly being done because of some reciprocal force that we're seeing. And yes, I certainly do see that idea of escalation to de-escalate art of the deal potentially being involved. The question, of course, does Russia or the North Koreans who we hear are involved come in on the back end of this? Because at the end of the day, I actually don't think that Zelensky is that empowered to want to continue the war. I think what he's more interested in is saving his own skin from the likes of the Azov Battalion and others who are going to come after him should the war effort fail.
Right. And there are still no elections in Ukraine. In fact, he's actually losing in the informal polls that have been circulating for the past several months. And there may continue to be.
Didn't he say he was going to be a one-term president anyway when he first ran? I mean, he's talking about running for re-election, and he said he would run again. Well, yeah, right.
Emperors also have a one-term,
true, very true.
Or one-term presidents in a certain way too. But the fact that it, as you said, it did come at the very end, this could be sort of like a last-minute Christmas present for Biden and the Biden family to cozy up to the blob and do one last favor, in a sense, to curry whatever favor may have been lost during the Biden-Harris factional divide. There could be that at play. It just strikes me as, given the fact that Biden put on the Trump hat, asked for it deliberately, gave that big grinning smile. I have never seen Joe Biden smile as widely as he did during the concession speech that he gave the day after Trump won the election. I get the sense that, Trump is a pretty transparent player when it comes to his truth account. He frankly sometimes can't even help himself, especially when a political opponent makes a hardcore political blunder, as is very easy to see this new long-range missile authorization as.
That's right. We just got Benz, we've only got about a minute and a half left. I know you have to run. By the way, I'll just throw out there while we're on the subject that it was in the tail end of the Obama-Biden administration, the first time around, that we saw that last-minute meeting and that trip from Biden over to Kiev. Just on our last minute, do you think that we could see some of those last-minute efforts like that here happen again?
I actually think we're going to see continuing efforts. One of my big fears is that and I'm open to the Marco Rubio, selection as Secretary of State. But the fact is Marco Rubio was part of the Senate gang working to Trump-proof NATO against an incoming Trump presidency 6 months ago. The fact is there will be ongoing, constant shadow diplomacy between blob members of the Republican Senate and House, as well as virtually all of the Democrats, to Ukraine in order to have a sort of
I remember
dual-track
there's
diplomacy.
billions of dollars, billions upon billions on the line. Go follow Mike Benz, the Foundation for Freedom online.